Alright, sorry for the delay. Was making sure everything was working. But welcome to the first annual Book of the Year Awards. A designated, of course, as always, have to have my phone interrupting what we're doing. But the first annual event dedicated solely to books and authors. More specifically, ones that I have read in the last year. In recent, we'll say, months, I have been very lackluster in my ability to post videos. But this, being a new year, is a moment where I can, as a creator, come to you, my audience, and show you exactly what my been up tos have been. And of course, this being the single highest event of the year comes as many good things a turn of the year. It is a pleasure for me to announce 5 books and or the author that wrote them as runner-ups to the book of the year as well as the top in their areas that I, based on my merits, have given them. All of them have scores that place them either at or above the precedent that I have set forth about halfway through last year and has allowed for me as the reader to present them as to you all, my audience. Though I may not have many audience members, it is still a great pleasure to have everybody here and enjoying my content with me. Tonight, the biggest winner will receive a brand new award, something that up until very recently I have not been able to offer. And that is, it will be awarded the first book of the year to be stamped with the official stamp showing that it is a top priority in my library, the Kelsey Heckman Library. Before we get started, I would like to thank everyone who has been patient with me in my time of not posting many videos, as well as other times where I posted very strange or even sometimes rambly videos. It is for you that I am so grateful, and it has allowed for me to have this moment to present these awards. Without any further ado, I shall announce the 5 awards and then the books that were awarded them. And then to finish this video off, we will be announcing this year's book of the year. To start off, we are going to go over authors. We'll start with the best author that has died, along with the work that they produced. The second will be the best author that is still alive based on the book that has been produced. Follow will be the best book that I have read that is non-fiction. Then to follow will be the book in which is the best, in my opinion, that is fiction. To round off everything, we will then announce the award for Book of the Year, with the possibility of the most exciting book that I have lined up within the next 2 months for me to read. That award in itself dis excludes that work from possibly becoming a work that I will be able to hold and give the official award and will not be included in the book of the year, but instead will allow for that book to have a moment here, possibly for everybody else to get ready, as the award allows for you, my audience, to know what will be coming. Before we get started with the awards, I am, of course, having my Harry Potter mug filled with cold coffee, which is very much what I am kind of up to. It is 3:30 where I am, so let's go ahead and have a drink. Let's get started. To start off, we will have the best author that has now passed away. Their piece is something that is fairly not very well known. Themselves, a sort of well known author just because of who they were married to. Excluding that, they possibly may not be well known. It was a book that I read in college, my last semester, and in itself is an amazing book. One filled with the emotional turmoil of mental illness as well as the messiness of marriage. This author is the author of Save Me the Waltz, Zelda Fitzgerald. Her work dedicates itself to the knowledge of mental illness as well as women's place, very much mixed with rather than being all about the harshness of marriage or this, that, or the other. It instead is the represent or taking place in the symbolism of dance and what it means to dance and to put that forth in your life. Zelda's very well written novel, in my opinion, is something that is a depiction of her own life, very much a memoir that does not use her name and doesn't really say anything about her husband, but rather in the characters that it depicts is what reveals the reality. It was an honor to have this deceased author be in my bookshelf and to have read it. And I look forward to having the moment to present this book in an official video. Thank you, Zelda. The next author, the author that is still alive, goes to John Green and the Anthropocene Reviewed. Though this book was in itself one that I have, I believe, presented here, in fact, it holds a special place. It is one of essays, personal opinions, all about what the modern world looks like. John Green very much depicts the world in how he views it, both in his skewed view of life based on a mental illness, but as well as an average person, somebody that up until a few years ago was not a very well known individual. His essays are one that I very much have come to enjoy. One of the most fascinating to me is a piece that I encourage anybody to go and listen to. It is the most and sometimes absolutely fascinating novel of Auld Lang Syne, a song that very much, especially now, is one that is sung as the new year rings in. Here, 4 days after the new year, it is one that I still hold dear. His video on this is posted on him and his brother's page called Vlogbrothers. Thank you, John, for your excellent piece and your insightful opinions and views on things ranging from the Indianapolis 500 all the way to Auld Lang Syne. Up next is the best work of the best work of fiction. So, this, once again, a novel I read in college and one that has not had the opportunity to be reviewed. This book by Virginia Woolf is Mrs. Dalloway. once again, a book that depicts symbolism to represent reality and very much the damage and causes that lead to mental illness, as well as what happens in society when everything seems to fall apart while everybody chooses to ignore it. Taking place shortly after World War I, we see the problems within a society that ignores those that are ill, but also a society in itself that does not acknowledge what is going on within its own societal norms, as its norms are slowly shifting and changing, as the people that have money are suddenly discovering that all is not well, at least for one individual. It is a true pleasure, as one of my favorite authors of all time, to have been able to read this book this year. Finally, for the official awards, the award for the best nonfiction. This award goes to Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty. For many, this is possibly an interesting place. Her piece is very much a collection of short and somewhat fascinating pieces based on her life, both on why she decided to become a mortician, but as well as her general opinion on things like death culture and why things are changing and why they need to. Caitlin's ability to write about her personal life, as well as some of her own traumas, as well as the viewing of other people's trauma, allows for me as the reader to enter into her world, understand where she is coming from, and to be so pleased that I follow her, both in a literary text as well as following her on YouTube at Ask the Mortician. Some of her more fascinating things is talking about her time working in a mortuary and funeral home. Currently, she has not produced any videos, but many of her videos are collections based on historical events and her own personal opinion. Two things that are very dicey at times, if not done right, but with her abilities and creativity, she has been able to unite them. Very much like how she united this to be a well thought out piece of work. One that I am very pleased to have read. Before we announce this year's Book of the Year award, which will encompass both authors and books, simply on the basis that that single piece made either that author or that book outstand amongst the rest. It is my pleasure to announce my top pick of the year for the next 2 months. The book that I am most excited about. Of course, as you can see behind me, there are several books that are in the catalog that are being prepared for me to read. So, this year, I am most excited to read The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. This is a fairly dense book, one that many people know enough simply because of the Disney adaptation, but it comes with a lot more interesting things as a reader rather than simply just a movie watcher. This or this book, I am excited to dig into, and within the next few months, I hope to dig into it and to eventually have a video out. But sadly, until I can read it, I am not able to either nominate this book or its author for a possible prize. For now, it shall be put away until we are able to read it. And so, with the final portion of our reward ceremony, we shall announce who is the Book of the Year. Between these 4 books, it is something I am extremely happy to have read all of them, and that it is simply me picking that has made it possibly one of the most difficult decisions. Without further ado, the Book of the Year goes to. I'm shuffling them, you can't see that way. You guys get a little bit of suspense. Really quick. So, there are a few people out there that know what the Book of the Year award is already. These people kind of got the sneak peek. Now, there is a book that did get a runner-up position for Book of the Year. Currently, I do not have that book. Partially it's my fault, and partially it's some other things. But that book that is the runner-up is The Dinner by Herman Nock. A wonderful book, and one that I am very excited to hopefully release very soon. Otherwise, it has been a great pleasure to have announced the Book of the Year award with several people as they received it as their Christmas present. These people are very good readers, and if you would like, send me an email, and I can get you as well in on the information on next year's book award, and even possibly figure out a way that I can send you the Book of the Year award in time that you could have read it. The Book of the Year is sent out every year on December 15th. That means that it will have plenty of time to reach anyone all throughout the world, as well as here at home in the United States, with enough time for you possibly to have at least cracked the book. It is also a moment that I can juggle around. If need be, we can expand or contract the time. I am very, very happy to be able to get to know several people and to indulge both them and myself in the ability to read and our expansion into knowledge. Now, the moment that I have been waiting for, and hopefully you have as well, the Book of the Year is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty. Possibly one of the best books I have read. In fact, I shall now read what my review of the book is based on the book. Definitely a book about a journey. To become her, death is activism, good humor, and only slow on the page based on my ability to read. To find her means to be able to find a good death. To go further, I would extend that very much understanding what death is sort of the central piece of this, but it as well as finding what good death is means finding out more about Caitlin, something I was very happy to do. And though my notes at times were quite interesting, other times I was unable to produce thought. Instead, they had to be cooked over hours, days later. but it is a great pleasure to have read this book, and that is why Smoke Gets in Your Eyes is announced as my book of the year, receiving a 9.1. For that, Caitlin, and all of your team at Ask the Mortician, as well as anybody that has read this book yet, I am honored to stamp this as the first book of the year, making it the highest honor in my house and in my library. And with that, this book is the first book of the year based on the Kelsey Heckman Library, and is definitely a book I encourage everybody to go and to see, to read, as well as check out her YouTube channel called Ask the Mortician. But I also encourage anyone to go check out John Green's book, The Anthropocene Reviewed, as well as his personal channel, Just Hank, or just John Green, as well as him and his brother's YouTube channel called Vlogbrothers, because it has a signature on the inside page I'm going to stamp elsewhere. Receiving its stamp. Mrs. Dalloway, Virginia Woolf. This book shall continue to bring me entertainment and insight, and it is something I highly recommend. Though Mrs. Dalloway, I don't have an official review for it yet. Let me double check. I want to make sure. John Green and his book received a 9 out of 10. Zelda Fitzgerald and Save Me the Waltz is another good example. An amazing book, one that I highly recommend. It is my great pleasure to have hosted this event and to bring it to you. Thank you so much, and may you be filled with peace, love, and joy this coming year, and may you and your family enjoy these books. Until next time, take care, my friends. Bye.